Cuando ya íbamos a pagar, miré cuando entraron unos hombres con pistolas disparando a toda la gente.
¿Eran varias personas?
Más que una persona.
Sí,
Ok, por lo menos dos.
como 3 o 4 personas.
Ajá. ¿Y cómo estaban vestidos?
Yo los vi de negro.
Okay, so you saw more than one person dressed in black shooting inside the Walmart.
¿Andaban ya uniformados como policías o...?
No les vi la cara, solamente les vi de aquí para abajo, pero traían, yo los vi todo de negro y traían shorts puestos, no traían pantalón, eran shorts.
Ah, ok.
Y eran ellos los que iban disparando, porque yo nomás vi las pistolas largas cuando ellos iban así, porque yo miraba la lombriz, claro,
So she saw 4 individuals running in there in shorts, all dressed in black, shooting back and forth, and pretty much what she did.
Who is really behind the mass shootings that have just taken place in America? And why did they begin just hours after the FBI was exposed for destroying the hard drives that had the Hillary Clinton email evidence of treason? See, that report came out on Friday. You probably didn't know about that because the news has been about nothing but the shooting since then. The deep state is in a panic. They are about to be defeated and crushed forever. The deep state is going all out right now to change the narrative and change the news cycle, and even to cause mass violence and cause a civil war, cause as much death and destruction as possible across America. Now, how do we know this? Well, to answer that question, I'm going to do something a little different today. I'm going to start by reading for you an article from the New York Times. New York Times, David K. Shipler, April 28, 2012. Terrorist plots hatched by the FBI. This is directly from the New York Times. Again, this is not me saying this. This is the New York Times. The United States has been narrowly saved from lethal terrorist plots in recent years, or so it has seemed. A would-be suicide bomber was intercepted on his way to the Capitol. A scheme to bomb synagogues and shoot Stinger missiles at military aircraft was developed by men in Newburgh, New York, and a fanciful idea to fly explosive-laden model planes into the Pentagon and the Capitol was hatched in Massachusetts. But all those dramas were facilitated by the FBI, whose undercover agents and informers pose as terrorists, offering a dummy missile, fake C4 explosives, a disarmed suicide vest, and rudimentary training. Suspects naively played their parts until they were arrested. Okay, you with me so far? That's the New York Times. So the New York Times is reporting that the FBI trains terrorists, that the FBI runs terror plots and sets up the attacks and the plots and then recruits people into the role of terrorists to carry them out. And then the FBI stops them at the last minute to claim that they are stopping terrorism. So already we know that the FBI has for many years, this is from 2012, the FBI has for many years achieved a level of proficiency in setting up and carrying out terrorist plots all across America. With me so far? Let's continue with the New York Times. Again, this is written by David K. Shipler from 2012. When an Oregon college student, Mohammed Osman Mohammed, yeah, there's a couple of Mohammeds in there, thought of using a car bomb to attack a festive Christmas tree lighting ceremony in Portland, the FBI provided a van loaded with 6 55-gallon drums of, quote, inert material, harmless blasting caps, a detonator cord, and a gallon of diesel fuel to make the van smell flammable. An undercover FBI agent even did the driving, with Mr. Muhammad in the passenger seat. To trigger the bomb, the student punched a number into a cell phone and got no boom, only a bust. So you with me here? The FBI drove the suicide bomb van. The FBI set up, this is me talking now, not the New York Times. The FBI set up the blasting caps, the det cord, the diesel fuel, the 55-gallon drums. And according to the story, they all had inert material. But ask yourself, how difficult would it be for the FBI to swap that out with real material? It wouldn't be difficult at all. Continuing with the New York Times article, this is legal, but is it legitimate? Without the FBI, would the culprits commit violence on their own? And that's the gray area. Who is susceptible? Anyone who plays along with the agents, apparently. Once the snare is set, law enforcement sees no choice. Ignoring such threats is not an option, this agent argues here in the story. So, it was just a couple of months ago then that the FBI announced that followers of QAnon were the new domestic terrorism threat in America. Let me show you a screenshot of that document. So now, see, back in 2012, when the terror threat was radical Islamic terrorism, the FBI was running terror plots to recruit Islamicists to participate in these terror plots to blow things up, fly explosives into the Pentagon and things like that. The FBI did that. That's according to the New York Times. Today, the FBI says followers of QAnon are domestic terrorists. And it would only make sense then that the FBI is doing what? The question answers itself. Recruiting who? QAnon followers to do what? Oh, to carry out domestic terrorism plots that the FBI plans, that the FBI sets up. So it's only a natural extension of what has already been reported by the New York Times. But that's not the only story on this. Let me read another story for you, or parts of it. This one is by Ian Cummings from the Kansas City Star. And this is from 2017, updated 2017. It says, I wonder what the update was. They probably took out some of the information that the FBI didn't want out there. The title is FBI Undercover Stings Foil Terrorist Plots, but often plots of the agency's own making. With me? All right. Here's the story. Stay with me because this is important stuff. Announcements of foiled terrorist plots make for lurid reading. Schemes to carry out a President's Day jihadist attack on a train station in Kansas City. Bomb a September 11 memorial event. Blow up a 1,000-pound bomb at Fort Riley. Detonate a weapon of mass destruction at a Wichita airport. The failed plans all show imagination, but how much of it was real? Often not that much. According to a review of several recent terrorism cases investigated by the FBI, the most sensational plots invoking the name of the Islamic State were largely the invention of FBI agents, carrying out, quote, elaborate sting operations on individuals identified through social media as being potentially dangerous. So according to this Kansas City Star news report, the FBI goes out onto social media and they find someone that they deem to be potentially dangerous. And then the FBI creates a terrorism plot. What is this? Blow up a monument, bomb a bridge, fly a bomb into the Pentagon, all the things from this story and the other story. Blow up a 1,000-pound bomb at Fort Riley. All these things, all dreamed up by the FBI. And then they go online and they find sock puppet people who can be convinced to jump into the role to be the scapegoat. Is it all starting to make a little more sense now? Who is the FBI identifying as domestic terrorists right now? QAnon followers, white supremacists. Because, of course, there is a faction inside the FBI, still run by Barack Obama, still run by James Comey, a faction that is desperately trying to carry out a political coup in America, a faction that committed treason, a faction that destroyed the evidence on Hillary Clinton's email servers, a faction that is anti-America and anti-Trump, and a faction that has years of experience plotting terrorist attacks in America, on U.S. soil, a faction that has years of experience recruiting people off of social media, people who can be talked into doing crazy things. And by the way, one of the upshots of all this is if you are contacted by some shady individual who says that they're working for Trump and they need your help, you need to come to Walmart and carry this mock rifle or something, right? Or you need to meet somebody in a parking lot, or you need to drive this van, and then you're going to be rewarded. You're going to be given the Congressional Medal of Honor or something. You know what I mean? They talk people into this. And then there are some people that are so easily, I don't know, brainwashed or Jason Bourne or whatever you want to say. Some people are easily hoodwinked into doing crazy things, and they're not awake enough to think, wait a second, this whole thing is a setup. This is an FBI plot. That's what we're seeing happening in America. But let's continue with the Kansas City Star, which, by the way, again, the article was modified in 2017. Probably they removed things that the FBI didn't want in here. All right, continuing. Kansas City Star. In fact, in terrorism investigations in Wichita, at Fort Riley, and last week in Kansas City, the alleged terrorists reportedly were unknowingly following the directions of undercover FBI agents who applied fake bombs and came up with key elements of the plan. Oh, who supplied fake bombs, sorry, and came up with key elements of the plan. So, quote, "What I get concerned about is where the plot is being hatched by the FBI," said Michael Gurman, a fellow at the Brennan Center for Justice and a former FBI agent. Quote, listen carefully, quote, "There has been a clear effort to manufacture plots. Law enforcement has increasingly used undercover agents, blah, blah, blah." Let's see what else this says. FBI agents say the sting operations are just a tool for thwarting terrorist attacks. Right. You mean the terrorist attacks that the FBI comes up with? Oh, I see. Such cases are almost never successfully challenged in court with entrapment defenses. Isn't that interesting? But some question whether the FBI is catching real terrorists or tricking troubled individuals into volunteering for a long prison sentence. The most recent alleged plotter, 25-year-old Robert Lorenzo Hester Jr. of Colombia. Got it? 25-year-old. These people are always in their 20s, aren't they? Isn't that amazing? Was indicted last week after federal prosecutors accused him of participating in an Islamic State plan to cause mass casualties in a bombing attack on a train station and possibly buses and trains in Kansas City on February 20. Okay? And it goes on and on and on, but you get the point. So here we have, this isn't a report from InfoWars. This isn't a report from Natural News. This isn't a report from the Gateway Pundit or Zero Hedge or Breitbart. I just read to you reports written by the New York Times, which is a propaganda front for the establishment, and a report from the Kansas City Star, which is a mainstream media, corporate-run media. Both of those reports, as I just read to you, admit the FBI is the largest terrorist organization in America. The FBI comes up with all these plots. And there was another one that we covered, it was in 2012, about blowing up a bridge in Cleveland, and sure enough, it was another FBI plot. The FBI sets up the vans. The FBI sets up the explosives. The FBI gets the det cord. The FBI gets the diesel fuel. They get the drones with explosives. The FBI draws up the plans. The FBI then goes out onto social media and recruits people to pop those person, to just put them right into the role as a sock puppet to carry out the attack. And we know that at least in the cases cited in those stories, the FBI used fake explosives, and the FBI stops the attack at the very last minute in order for the FBI to claim, oh my gosh, we stopped terrorism. Why? Aren't we so good? We're amazing. Give us more money. We'll stop more terrorism. Really? You people are dreaming it up. You are the ones running the terror plots across America. Now, translate that to today. And so I'll ask you a series of questions here, okay? Because I want to encourage you to think for yourself. Oh, and by the way, here's an article from, what is this? This is from Front Page Mag. I'm going to put it up on the screen. New evidence unveils disturbing facts about Hillary's email scandal. And in this article, it talks about how the FBI and the DOJ under Barack Obama reached an immunity agreement with Hillary Clinton's attorneys, Cheryl Mills and Heather Samuelson. And under this agreement, Hillary Clinton's email servers were turned over to the FBI. But under this agreement, the FBI would not have, quote, custody and control which means that they could not release anything under a FOIA request. And furthermore, and this is the bombshell, quote, the FBI agreed to destroy the computers that had the backup emails. As Congressman Jim Jordan referenced during the Mueller hearings recently, the FBI used BleachBit to purge the server so the information could never be accessed in the future, and used hammers to smash the cell phones that were involved. In other words, the FBI and DOJ participated in the destruction of the evidence. That came out on Friday. The mass shooting in El Paso, Texas happened on Saturday morning, and the mass shooting in Dayton, Ohio happened Saturday evening. This Friday news is a bombshell. It shows that the FBI has engaged in the criminal cover-up of evidence of treason against America, that the FBI itself engaged in the destruction of evidence that would show Hillary Clinton to be a corrupt criminal with multiple violations of national security and secrecy. I ask you, the FBI, having so much practice running terror plots over the past 10 years plus across America, is it possible the FBI ran the terror plots in El Paso and in Dayton, Ohio? So that's question number one. Is it possible that the FBI was able to recruit individuals by looking at social media and finding individuals who were about ready to snap and then telling them the story that they wanted to hear? A story about whatever their philosophy is. And the El Paso shooter was a progressive Nazi. He railed about, well, if you believe the manifesto is even his, which I don't, but if you believe that manifesto, that shooter railed about environmentalism and how, like the KKK, which was run by the Democrats, he believed that all the races should be segregated. He thought that whites and blacks should live in different regions of the country. And he was like a Nazi eugenicist, environmentalist person. And he believed in universal basic income and a lot of these ideas that the Democrats push. But then he also believed America was being invaded by Hispanics, he said, which is something that a lot of conservatives believe. So, you can't pigeonhole him in one particular belief system, but the FBI could have contacted him and appealed to his extremism and recruited him to go in and shoot up a Walmart, or even just to walk into a Walmart with a fake gun and then have other shooters shoot up the place, because the violence was real. People really died in the Walmart shooting in El Paso. I'm very saddened by the fact that so many innocent people are sacrificed by pure evil in this country, deep state evil, that will stage real violence and mass murders in order to achieve their political goals. Thank you for watching. Pray for America. Keep your wits about you. Protect yourself, and do not be part of any plot that might make yourself a scapegoat of the FBI. Thank you for watching. Mike Adams here, the founder of Brighteon.com. Be safe.